hope you had a great morning and you really enjoyed the keynote. I think it was a great keynote and a great way to start this foggy day in San Francisco. Maybe for some, summer is a bit of a slow time at work. But for us at GitHub, this summer was super busy and super exciting. We worked on new products, new features, and we launched a ton of improvements. And for Jeremy and I, on the Actions and Packages team, things were extra special and extra busy. Because in May, we launched the beta for GitHub Packages, bringing packages and source code together on GitHub. And in August, we launched the extended beta for Actions v2, bringing integrated CI/CD capabilities into GitHub. And today, just a few months later, we announced that both of these products, GitHub Actions and GitHub Packages, are available for everybody in GitHub to use.
So hey, everybody. I'm Jeremy Epling, and I lead the Code to Cloud teams at GitHub on the product side.
And I'm Simina Pasat, and I'm a product manager on GitHub Packages. So developers are at the center of GitHub. And when we think about developers, there are so many definitions out there. Maybe some of you know what Urban Dictionary is saying, that a developer is a person who transforms caffeine into code. But now let's be serious. Code doesn't mean that much until the moment when it becomes useful to somebody, until that open source package or that product or that mobile app gets in the hands of your users, whoever your users might be. So for us, developers are these super smart people working together in teams and transforming code into end value to our customers. But between writing the code and delivering that end value, there's a lot of different things that have to happen in the meanwhile. So we find these teams and these developers siloed between different systems, managing permissions, configurations, copying secrets, and by the end of the day, we even forget where we started from, because sometimes we're even in remote locations and on different time zones. So with GitHub Actions and GitHub Packages, we are bringing these code-to-cloud features in GitHub where you and your teams are already collaborating. And for open source repositories, this means that they don't only have their code, their issues, and their wikis on GitHub. Now they also have their CI/CD running directly on GitHub. And this means that when somebody is getting started with an open source repo and they want to fork it, it's going to be super easy for them to get started and directly build that project starting from the configurations. GitHub Actions and GitHub Packages are available today. They are GA. And if you like the keynote, that was only the tip of the iceberg, because Jeremy and I will show you a bit more details about Actions and Packages, and also lots and lots of demos with all the cool things that we released in the last few months.
Yeah, as Simina was saying, with GitHub Actions, there's really a lot that you can do. While most of the core workflows really are CI/CD for most of what you do as a developer, you can really automate anything in GitHub, any event. And we'll walk through some of this in the demos later. But whether it be creating an issue, editing a pull request, somebody new comes to your repo, a deployment happens, any of those events can all be automated. And what the goal behind that is to make it really easy for you to focus on what matters, which is writing the code for your project. You don't want to be always out triaging bugs and kind of dealing with all these repetitive tasks. You want to be able to automate those away. And one of the great things is, because these are just files checked into a repository, you can go and look at how other projects work as well. Maybe you like the way the Node project works, or Kubernetes. If they're using Actions and then they have those workflow files checked in right there, you can go ahead and fork those, remix them, put them into your workflows as well. And then we have a marketplace of over 1,200 actions that's constantly growing, where you can see what more and more developers are doing to make it easier to kind of automate all the different tasks you have. So as we talked about a little bit in the keynote, we have all the core things you would expect for built-in CI, and we'll go through that, whether that being like expressions, matrix builds, support for containers, Windows, Mac, Linux, everything. You have streaming logs. We have a built-in secret store, and then to speed up your builds, artifact caching, and then now self-hosted runners.
For GitHub Packages, we're bringing your packages and your code source together on GitHub. And this means a couple of things. For teams who want to keep things private within their organization, it means they can push and they publish their packages to GitHub, and only people from their organizations will be able to see and to install those packages. This means these teams don't have to sync permissions between different systems and to deal with all that stuff when a new developer comes to the team or when a developer leaves the team. For open source developers and teams, this means that they can publish their packages to GitHub, and there's a direct correlation between the repository and the package. In the last few months during this beta, we saw over 10,000 users using packages, and they published tens of thousands of packages. So we're super excited to see what will come next. GitHub Packages has support for public and private registries, and there's no magic there. If the package corresponds to a public repository, then the package will be public. If the package corresponds to a private repository, then the package would be private. And there's no need to manage permissions between these two, between packages and code, because there's one login for code and packages, and everything is under GitHub. What this means is that you can log into GitHub with the same account that you always use the same search, and you'll find packages, use the same permissions that you have, read and write, to know if you can only install packages, or also publish packages. We have support for some of the most important registries there: NPM, Docker, Maven, RubyGems, and NuGet. And just a few weeks back, we released support for Gradle as well. As you can expect, it works with any CI and with GitHub Actions. And we think we're really going to like this one because we paid extra attention on how GitHub Actions and GitHub Packages work together. Of course, if you want, you can use GitHub Packages from your local machine, but we really recommend letting the robots doing the work and automating this one. Being part of GitHub, we really believe in integrations and APIs. So GitHub Packages has a full GraphQL support and webhook support, so you can automate your workflows however you prefer. There's also package analytics for maintainers and for consumers alike. So as a consumer, you can see how many downloads a package has, if it's popular or not, what are the details, previous versions, and so on. And finally, during the beta, we heard from a lot of people that it's really important to have an easy configuration. And especially for NPM, easy configuration is key. So we are offering proxy support for NPM, which means GitHub Packages will proxy the packages that you need from NPM and deliver them straight to your project. So this was a bit in a nutshell about actions and packages, but now we want to show you some cool demos about what they are really about.
Great, thanks, Simina. So I'm going to walk through a couple demos. And these will be different than the keynote. So one of the things that you'll notice is before we just walk through kind of creating a new workflow. So as you saw before in the keynote, we clicked here and we were able to create a new workflow. It automatically detected my language. But let's dig in a little bit more and see what's actually happening in some of these workflow files. So as we said, we're automatically detecting that JavaScript's the primary language in this case and automatically suggesting a set of workflows. But what we've done is we want to really make sure we're embracing the community with each one of these. Ideally, and we've already seen a lot of open source contributors, is people from Node are helping us figure out what's the best way to have Node CI work, and the same for Go, and every one of these different languages that we support. So each one of these is actually an open source repository. So if I were to click right here, you can see we have an actions organization on GitHub, and then we have a repo with all the starter workflows. So anybody can come and contribute directly what these are. So maybe if you wanted to browse the workflows, see what the actual code is behind these before committing to one of them, you can go through and see what each one of these are. You can go up and see that we have a myriad of different CI workflows. And then we also have a set of workflows for automation as well. So whether or not you want to greet new contributors, or you want to go ahead and mark an issue as stale, or anything like that, it's all supported with a set of workflows to make it very easy just to get started there. So now let's jump back to where we were a second ago. And one of the things you'll see is that this is true for all the other starter workflows as well. So whether it be Python, Ruby, anything, all of these are open source, and we're ready to see your contributions directly to those. If I were to go ahead and click and get started on one of these, you saw before a little bit of kind of how we have autocomplete and things like that to make it a little bit more approachable as you come through. So again, we have a lot of different features here that you can go ahead and have. So when you think about what does it mean to build CI/CD, well, basically you have a directed acyclic graph, and that's the way to think about it. Basically, we have a set of jobs, and a workflow is composed of a set of jobs. Within a job, you have a set of steps. And the jobs are the graph. So each one of these are running on a different runner. This could be a self-hosted runner that you have. It could be like a Raspberry Pi under your desk. It could be something in the cloud. Or it could be one of GitHub's runners itself. And we have runners for Windows, Linux, and Mac that are free for open source. And then for every single private repository, there's included minutes as well that we'll go through more a little bit later. And then as I'm going through and editing these files, there's multiple different events that I could have. So I could have a push event, or I could do issue create. Again, any of these events that happen on GitHub, you can go ahead and subscribe to these as well. So then if I go over here, to give you an idea, almost anything that we generate a webhook event for, these are actually fully supported directly in GitHub Actions. So we go down here, you can go ahead and look. So whether or not you want to say, hey, I want to trigger our workflow off a check run or a check suite, or whenever a tag is created. Maybe you want to kick off a release whenever a tag's created, or you want to kick off a release only on a specific pattern of when that tag's created. Maybe you want to say like V star. We can go ahead and do that as well. If you want to filter down to a set of branches and only say for this set of branches. If you want to filter down to just a path. Maybe you have a large mono repo, and then you want to have separate workflows for different paths in that. So you want to go through and say, hey, if code changes in this directory, let's go ahead and do this build. If it changes this directory, do a different build. Again, all that support is built directly into Actions. Whether or not there's a deployment status, forking, almost any event that happens on GitHub, it's all there. And then we have a general event called the repository dispatch event. So this allows any third-party system to actually plug in with GitHub Actions and trigger any kind of workflow. So this could be Prometheus. This could be a Jira ticket is created. It could be almost any event that's out there, you can go ahead and hook up. And it just gives you that flexibility to really make Actions the glue that connects all these different pieces across your workflow. So we really want you to be able to automate everything from idea all the way to production as well, and not just have CI/CD. So let's jump back over here. And one of the things that you'll notice here is a couple different things in this markdown file. In this YAML file. You'll notice here we have a matrix build, and we're going ahead and building across multiple different versions of Node. Again, this matrix syntax isn't just something that's specific to Node. You could be doing this with multiple versions of Go or Ruby or .NET or anything there. You can even do includes and excludes on these as well. So you can say, hey, actually, on this specific leg of the matrix, I want to go and add this set of variables to that and specialize the build there, or I want to exclude these other options. You can have it fail fast. So if one of the things in the matrix fails, it's going to go ahead and stop running the whole matrix so you don't kind of burn up all that compute if you don't want to. If we kind of crack open one of these, you'll notice that we really went for an explicit syntax for how we go and build these. So right here with Actions, you'll notice that the first thing you have to do is check out. And again, this is because we're more than just CI/CD. If you're looking for an issue created, or you're making a kind of a chat ops bot where you want to say when everybody adds a comment to the PR that says /deploy, it's going to kick off a deploy, you don't want to be cloning code at that point. So again, you go ahead and check out the repo. And then we have a set of actions to make it get started very easily with all the different languages and platforms we support. So under Actions, we have Setup Node. We also have a lot of different setup actions. You can see over here, Setup Java, Setup Ruby, Go. Again, all these easy ways to get started and kind of help you with some of the basics, especially if you're doing cross-platform builds. There's definitely differences between Linux and Windows and Mac on how some of these environment variables need to be set up if you want to set up proxy and authentication and all these other cases. So these are helper actions that make it really easy. But one of the cool things you'll notice here is you can just do run, and then we will just run a bash command, like directly here. And then you can set environment variables, and that's all scoped to this one step here. But you notice some of these just say uses, and it says uses action setup node. So what this is actually doing is it's going to the actions org and going ahead and grabbing the code directly off there. And from there, you can actually go and let's jump over and look at what that is. Here. And then right down here, we can go ahead and see the code for this specific action. So there's a couple different things we have going on here. One of them is everyone has this actions YAML file. And what this does is just specify the basics of creating an action so that you can go ahead and share that in the marketplace and have other people go ahead and use that. So it's a pretty similar format you would imagine. You can go through, give it a name, description, author. You can specify a set of inputs. In this case, this setup one has a couple inputs for the auth that you want, the specific node version that you want, a registry URL to make sure npm publish works properly, scope information that you would need as well as version. And then there's two different ways to write actions. One of them is to just create a container, and we'll execute that container. Another one is to use JavaScript to write your action. And you just have a set of JavaScript, which is what we used in this case, just sitting right there in the repository. So let me jump back up over here, and we'll jump over to the source directory and get an idea of what that looks like. So if I go over to the setup node, in this case, we ended up writing this in TypeScript. But you can see we have a set of helper modules to make it really easy. So directly in the actions org, we have a core module that you can use. So again, doing cross-platform CI/CD isn't always the most straightforward thing. You have to execute things differently. The file systems work a little bit. So we have a set of helper functions to make that really easy to support that. But other than that, you're just writing JavaScript or TypeScript or anything that compiles down or transpiles directly down into JavaScript to go ahead and create your action, which makes it really easy and approachable. So you can go through and see what's going on here. We can see we're grabbing the version from that version parameter we saw before. We're going ahead and downloading a version if it's not there, setting up the authentication, and then setting up a set of problem matchers so that we can get better errors for what's happening for that specific language. So again, this gives you a little bit of an idea of what does it mean to go ahead and build an action. And there's a talk later tomorrow afternoon that'll dig a little bit more on how to go and build actions and what that looks like. So let's jump back to where we were before. And I'll show you a couple more things here. One of the other things that you saw from the demo was the set of marketplace actions. And we have lots of different actions directly in the marketplace. So from right here, you can go ahead and search. So if you want to maybe work on a Firefox add-in, I can go over here, search for Firefox. There's an add-in right there. I can go ahead and see the number of stars. If I wanted to click on this, I can get an idea of the listing. I can see the YAML that I need to copy and paste directly in. And I can click right here, go over here, and just copy and paste that YAML directly in. And again, this is searching the entire marketplace. Again, if you wanted to go over, you can go over and view the full listing on the marketplace to get all the information on that. Let's go over and check out one more of these. So we saw that there were some Kubernetes ones as well. So we can click on this one right here and jump over to the full marketplace listing. And one of the things you'll notice is you have a full README file. As an author of these, we have creator verification as well. So we can tell you if it's an organization that you can trust. Is this officially from that official organization? Like, is it the specific one that the CodeCov team built for doing code coverage? Or is it from, in this case, Azure? Is it from Google? Is it from AWS? You can see stars. You can see contributors. You can see if there are open issues, pull requests, and then go through and just get more information on what that is and how to go use that action. So now let's jump over to another repo and walk through a little bit more detailed CI system. So in this one, as I mentioned before, you can have multiple different filters and events. So in this case, it's pull request. We have a push event. We're filtering these down to branches. You can include, exclude branches. You can filter on tags and paths, as we talked about before. You can set up matrices across multiple different things. So you don't have to have a single matrix that's just node or a single variable. You can multiply these out. So in this case, what's going to happen is it's going to run these 3 node versions across these 4 OS versions. So I'm going to kick off 12 simultaneous jobs that are all going to run in parallel every single time I run my CI. This is similar, as we walked through before, checking out the repo, setting up the environment, and going ahead and running a couple scripts. Then down here, you can see some more of these use cases for these setup actions. So in this case, I really want to target a specific version of Node. I want to have the registry and proxy and authentication information all set up for me. So again, all I'm going to have to run is npm publish. And then we have a built-in secret store directly into GitHub as well. So if I were to go over here and click on settings, I can go down, and right here, there's a secret store built into every single repository. So you can see I named this one npm token. Again, if you want to add a new secret, it's as simple as going in here, typing in a new secret, the name, and then providing a value. And again, that's securely stored by GitHub. And then if you wanted to use self-hosted runners as well, we now have self-hosted runner support as well. So you can see I've already configured this Linux VM, and it's not in use right now. But if I wanted to add another runner, we have an easy set of scripts that you can go do to download that runner on your own hardware. And again, we support Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. And next week, we'll also be supporting ARM architectures, ARM32, ARM64, as well as x86 as well. And we're continuing just to expand the breadth of that matrix so that you can test everything that you need to be able to test to have a full CI/CD experience. Before, one of the things we talked about too was wanting to have fast builds. So a key to that is having caching support, and I'm really excited that we now have caching support. So in this case, maybe you want to cache your node modules directory. This could be NuGet packages, or this could be some binaries that you went and built as well. So we can jump over, actually, and check out that repository itself. Because again, all these actions are open source. I'll scroll down here, and we have a set of examples right here to kind of give you an idea of how do you go ahead and use this action. What does it mean? OK, the cache action, we need a specific path to be provided so we know what we're going to be caching. And then you can generate that key yourself. And again, that key could be tied to a path, a specific runner, a branch that you want to cache. And obviously, if there's 100% cache hit, it's going to be really fast. But we also have fallback as well. So you don't have to have 100% cache hit. You could say, oh, let's fall back. Let's check this other branch maybe from a while ago, grab the relevant packages there, so you'll still get some speed benefit, maybe not as much with an exact cache hit. And then if I click down here, you'll also notice that we have examples for just about every language. Again, our goal is to have every language, every platform, every cloud. So whether you use Go, Java, Maven, NPM, you're using Yarn, PHP, again, we have good examples the community is helping us author to make sure that you can use caching and build CI/CD really end-to-end for what you need. Now let's go ahead and look at what does it mean when we actually publish one of these. So down before, you saw that workflow that I was showing here a second ago, where not only have I gone through and did the build, but I also published here to NPM and GitHub packages. And now Simina is going to come up and show you what we've been working on with GitHub packages.
Thanks. So Jeremy showed you all about actions, or not all about, but a lot about actions, and how to publish a package. But these packages are only useful when somebody wants to consume them and needs them and reuses them. So let's assume that I want to use the package that Jeremy just published. There's a couple ways I could do that. One is that I could go to Google, let's say, and search for a Fibonacci node package. And install whatever I find on Google, because it's a super safe way to use in my source code. No, I won't do that. Another way I could do is to go to GitHub and to use search and to see what packages I find there. That's a little bit better, but in this case, I want to use a package that somebody in my organization published, because I really trust these people. So what I can do is to go to my organization space on GitHub. And I will see here I have a lot of repositories. And next to the repositories tab, there's a package tab. And these packages are all the packages that were published by somebody in my organization. So what this signals to me is that I can trust these packages. These are people that have already commit rights to the repositories in the org. So I can trust them and install packages that they published as well. And you can see here that GitHub Packages has support for many ecosystems. So there's here a Docker image, and there's a Maven package, there's a Gradle one, and there's also support for NuGet and Ruby gems. But in this specific scenario, what I care is about installing a node package. And looking at the node packages, looks like this one over here is really popular. It has over 1,000 downloads. Good job, Jeremy. So I will click on this package. And here on this page, I will be able to see a lot of useful information. So first of all, it's the latest version, which means it's probably the version that I should install. And at the top, there's the install instructions generated by GitHub. So I can simply copy these instructions, put them in my project, and then get started with this package. I can also configure my project to use GitHub packages as a proxy. So it gets all the other packages that I have specified in my package.json straight from npm.js. Now, here there's a description for the package. But if I wanted to make things a bit more clear for developers that are wanting to use the package or include more information, I can simply edit it. It's a simple markdown file, so it's easy to get started. What else? I have more package details, such as the organization and the repository that this package belongs to, the date when it was published, and also download activity. So this was the repository that Jeremy published earlier today. And then I can also see previous versions that were published in the last few days. So with that, I want to pass back to Jeremy and to show us some more stuff about actions.
Yep. Great, thanks. One of the things that we talked about before was CI/CD is amazing for getting productivity back and making sure that you can deploy packages and get those into production and get all of your building and testing, especially in parallel. But another key part of that is actually deploying web services. So I want to spend some time kind of showing some of the work that we've done around there as well. So let's go in here and look at one of these workflows. So you can see we have a couple different workflows. I'll upload this one right here for deploying Google. So again, we have a set of starter workflows that make it really easy for you just to grab ones. In this case, this is one that Google supports themselves. And you can go ahead and see their recommended way of deploying to GKE. So in here, you can see we're automatically going to kick off this deployment whenever there's a change to pull request in the master branch. You set a set of environment variables up front. Again, we have environment variables at the workflow level. You have to go ahead and configure a couple different secrets to get that image in there correctly. And then a lot of the things that you would expect for deploying to Kubernetes if you've done that before. I can go ahead here, check out the repo. They go ahead and create a GitHub deployment. What this actually does is creates a little bit of deployment UI in the repo as well. So what that does is if I were to go over here to code, you'll notice this environments tab appears if you go ahead and create a GitHub deployment, and it'll also show that in the pull request as well. So you don't just see the workflow run, you also see the actual deployment specifics. And if you dig into this, you can kind of see all the different environments, this AWS environment, Google and Azure that are there, as well as a history of all the different deployments that have happened. So let's jump back into this workflow. So over here, I've created the GitHub deployment. And then they've also created a setup gcloud action as well. So what this enables you to do is to make sure you have the latest version of the gcloud CLI installed. You can go ahead and specify that here and get the basics set up for your account key, email, everything, an easy action to get started there. And then they run a couple of scripts, just going ahead and authenticating into gcloud, going ahead and building a Docker image. And again, you're just using the normal commands that you'd be running locally as well. So go down here, publish. And again, you can publish to GitHub package registry. We have great container support as well. In this case, it's getting published to the Google container registry. Go ahead and set up a couple more items, and then do a deployment right here, and then update your deployment status at the end. So again, a familiar, easy way to go approach these. These are all bash scripts that we're just running directly in line here. You'll be able to run these on your local machine to test and debug those as well one by one, just to make sure it's all working exactly the way that you expect. And then, as well with actions, obviously if you've been doing a lot of workflows in CI/CD, you need an easy way to kind of get an idea of what is the state of my system. Are my builds going well? Are my deployments going bad? Where is it failing? Maybe you have someone that kind of looks after the build on your engineering team. And we have a really easy experience for doing that. Directly in GitHub Actions, you can go over here, and you saw me earlier create a new workflow. I can also see all the different workflows that are in this repository right here on the left-hand side. I can go ahead and scroll down and see each one of the runs of those workflows. So in this case, I'm at the All Workflows view. But let's dig in just specifically to the Google one. So I'll click right here. And now we filtered the list. You can see that added right there to the search bar, just down to the deploying to GKE ones. I can go through here, and I can see, oh, there was a failure. A couple of them succeeded. I can go ahead and see the branch, who triggered that, how long ago was it, how long did the deployment take. and then be able to jump into specifics like going ahead and view that individual run or being able to pull out a workflow file. I can even click over here and easily search. Maybe I want to go filter all these by the branch or a specific event. It's all right there, right in my search box, or I can search directly here too to maybe see who was it that triggered that build or who didn't trigger that build. But again, with actions, it's not just CI/CD. So we looked at packages. We looked at also web service deployments. There's a lot of other really interesting things. And this is one of my favorite actions that got built recently, is that the Yarn team has actually been using this to determine if a bug is reproducible or not. So let's go over here and look for this. And we can go ahead and click on one of the bugs here. And one of the things that you'll notice is they built this really creative GitHub action. So whenever someone's filing an issue in the Yarn repo, a lot of times they want to know, is this bug reproducible or is it not? And it's a lot of work for the kind of maintainers to go through. Sometimes the person filing the issue does that hard work. Sometimes they don't. But now what you can do is if you just do proper code fencing on when you file the issue, you can come in here and put a block of code. And then what they will do is they created this GitHub action via this Yarn bot that will automatically run that set of code, see if the issue is reproducible, and go ahead and label it as well. So again, this shows the kind of variety of things you can do. While we have full support for everything you would expect with CI/CD, conditional statements to run steps or not run steps, to get back, call the GitHub API, to get insight into specifically what's going on with your builds. Again, you can do all of that, but there's really this whole other world of things that we can automate, whether it be if an issue is reproducible or welcoming a new contributor, or maybe you have in your enterprise, you have a set of corporate compliance policies that you need to say, hey, whenever somebody joins a repository, we need to go ahead and take some action. Or whenever somebody leaves the company, we want to go ahead and make sure that we remove their access to the repository. All of these are the examples of different things that you can go ahead and automate with GitHub Actions. All right, now let's switch back to the slides. So as you saw, we went over a couple of different things with GitHub Actions. You can see we can build on Linux, Windows, Mac, as well as having container builds. One of the interesting things about containers as well is not only can we build inside the container, so you can provide a set of steps that we can go run there, we also have multi-container testing. And one of the talks tomorrow is going to go into even more details of how to set that up. So in that case, imagine you're doing a web service and you have maybe like a Node web service and then you want to test with a Postgres database. We have full setup right there in our CI/CD workflows so that you can easily and automatically network those together to do functional end-to-end testing directly in your CI/CD. Matrix builds and caching to have those fast parallel testing. Streaming searchable logs, again, with color coding, everything that you would expect right there to quickly find that issue. You can even link to specific lines of the log, send that to somebody else if you're not sure what the error is and get their feedback on that. We have a built-in secret store. And then finally, we now have self-hosted runners, including next week ARM architecture support and x86 support.
For packages, you can publish your public and private packages. And you have one login for your code and packages. And this also means you will have the same GitHub APIs and webhook support for GitHub packages. It has support for multiple ecosystems, NPM, Docker, Maven and Gradle, NuGet, and Ruby gems. And finally, works really well with Actions and with any CI. Now, you might be wondering what it costs. If you're an open source maintainer or a team working on open source repositories, both GitHub Actions and GitHub Packages are completely free for open source and public repositories. If you are using private repositories, we also have really good news for you. GitHub Actions offers simple pay-as-you-go pricing with included minutes on each plan to get started. And it's the same for packages. You will get it on every plan, and you'll have included storage and downloads on every plan. So what does it mean in practice? For GitHub Actions, we are charging you per minute. And you will have a generous amount of minute on any plan you are for private repositories. So if you're on GitHub free, and that means you're paying precisely $0 for GitHub, you will get 2,000 minutes of free 2,000 minutes for private repositories. And if you're an organization, you can get up to 50,000 minutes for an enterprise organization per billing entity. If you want more, it's easy. You can just enable overages, either through your billing settings UI or by talking to your sales account manager, and you can just pay as you go for the extra minutes. And if you want to use your own self-hosted machines, either in a VM somewhere or on your prem, it's all for free. For GitHub packages, it's similar. So GitHub charges for the storage used by your packages and for the downloads made for the packages, so for the data transfer out. And you'll get included amounts from free to pro to team to enterprise. And for instance, for enterprise, you get 50 gigabytes of storage for your enterprise account and 200 gigabytes for data transfer out. And this is already included in what you're paying today. If you need more, you can pay additionally for storage and for data transfer out. Now, if you use GitHub packages and GitHub Actions together, and we think you really should, the data transfer out from GitHub packages, it's for free when used with GitHub Actions. So if you use an action doing npm install, or the downloads from GitHub packages will be for free. OK, so I think that's about it. We are really excited about bringing actions and packages generally available today. You can go ahead and check them out. Go and try them out in your repositories. It's for free if you have public repos. If not, you have plenty already included to get started. And yeah, come to us at the GitHub booth, ask us questions, and also go to Kayla's and Ed's session tomorrow afternoon at the Embarcadero stage. Thanks.